Hello! Welcome to a very special My Favorite Things holiday special. This video is going to be a little different than usual. See, we are going to count down a regular favorite things list, but after that, we're going to count down a once in a lifetime holiday favorite things, in which I recount all my favorite holiday media, which promises to be a really fun and wholesome time. Let's begin. I like that there lesbian Gundam show. Part mecha battler, part high school bride enslavement drama, Gundam Witch of Mercury is a joyous blend of three primary ingredients. 1. Giant robots body slamming each other in fights that will make you punch the air when the music kicks in at just the right fucking point. 2. A world of political intrigue as different factions and power groups subtly position themselves to destroy each other's lives. And 3, and honestly, the part that makes 1 and 2 so tantalizing, a teen drama starring the bumbling but endearing Suleta. Watching Suleta practically shit herself whenever anybody tries to speak to her as she attempts to navigate the world of both giant mechanized wrestle battles and geopolitical espionage, while also trying to figure out if her engagement to that kinda mean but kind of cool rich girl at school is like a political thing or a romantic thing. It is all just so fun to watch. I think the only thing keeping Witch of Mercury from pushing higher on this list is that while the battles themselves look fucking spectacular, I wish that same visual drama was present in a lot of the show's more flatly directed dialogue scenes. A small quibble, but one that stands out when everything else is so good. But don't let it stop you. This is a fantastic show whether you're into Gundam or not, and I've been having a spectacular time with it. Soccer is silly. A belief I refuse to compromise on or put under any real scrutiny whatsoever. While not as terrible as golf, the worst sport, a lifetime of well-meaning Irish strangers asking me have I watched the match has filled me with a venom that is quite frankly deeply unreasonable, which is why I was surprised when Blue Lock became one of my favorite anime of the season, and I think the reason for that comes in the form of its writer, Muneyuki Kanshiro, author of As the Gods Will, as well as internet darling manga Jagan. 2 extremely fun, extremely violent Game of Death-esque series, one of which features teenagers dressing up as mice and trying not to be murdered by a giant mechanized beckoning cat. The other eventually becoming a Game of Death manga after a magical owl grants people bio powers and there's a girl in it who likes mystical ninjas, so it's good. And if you're wondering if that same energy can be found in the soccer anime, well, here is a moment from episode 1. Later on, two boys have a conversation about how they both have monsters inside them that tell them to score a lot of goals. And it's that wild energy combined with an actually really well written and competently executed sports story had me like, oh god, is soccer good? Have I been wrong? Have I been misguided this whole time? No. But still, Blue Lock's pretty good. Okay, looks like we've got some equipment in these crates. Well, that's handy. Why is there barking in the distance? Oh, some dog. Okay, I guess we've got our first random battle and you can target the limbs. That's cool. Oh, wait, no, what? Game over on the first enemy? Okay, let's try that again. Oh, fuck, no. No, god damn it, no! Okay, at least I finally learned how to deal with those dogs. Wait, no, what is that? Oh, no. Oh, God, what is happening? Okay, don't get freaked out with a little gumption and some well thought out plan. Oh god, it cut off my legs. It cut off my fucking legs. Why didn't it just kill me? What is wrong with this game? Not since my first session with the original Dark Souls have I played a game that felt like it hated me as much as Fear and Hunger. This brutal, unfair nightmare of an experience where RNG can and will fuck you, and trust me, it is not the only thing. Take the content warning at the beginning very seriously, my friends. But anyone willing to endure the misery this game will inflict on you will discover the subtle tactile joy of slowly unraveling the mechanics of this dungeon and using them to descend ever deeper, discovering new nightmares in its depths and the many horrifying ways they will destroy you. Put it this way, I wondered why one of the status effects was listed as anal bleeding. I now have an answer to that question. Okay, look, I bounced off the first Xenoblade. Yes, I accept your malice. Which is why I was reluctant to check out Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but holy shit am I glad I did. From just the stunningly rendered cinematics that feel so much more Gurren Lagann than you would think from the words JRPG cutscene, to the massively deep combat system that gradually unfolds before you, to the wider story of two warring nations, both of whom use child soldiers with limited lifespans whose whole existence is to fight only to then be absorbed back into their evil queens. I mean, just look at these monsters, listen to this music. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a game that just brings it in every department, not least of which is your party of very likable characters assembled from children on both sides of the conflict who discover that, hey, maybe war is bad though. My personal favorite being Uni, who 1 hour in seemed like the healer girl, but now 20 hours in feels like the girl most likely to break a glass bottle across your face while calling you a slag. And you know, the English voice acting is not actually that bad. No, it's not. No, you're all just used to American accents. No, shut up. Vampire Survival, Reverse Bullet Hell, or Auto Survivor are some of the names that the least fun people on the internet will be arguing about for many years. The breakout of this new gaming genre being the mega hit Vampire Survivors. But personally, the game of this ilk I fell in love with the most is 20 Minutes Till Dawn. Pick your character, pick your weapon, survive for 20 minutes while choosing from a stream of random upgrades. The beauty of this game being how most upgrades don't just improve your stats, but introduce a new mechanic that changes the way you play, leading to an oceanic level of depth and experimentation that will have you proudly explaining to people who will not care just how cool your character's builds are. For example, I wield 2 submachine guns because of their high fire rate. A high fire rate I take advantage of with Spark's ability to trigger a lightning strike whenever she fires a bullet. I then use an upgrade so that each lightning strike has a 20% chance to reload 3 bullets, combined with a further 33% chance to not spend a bullet whenever I stand still and fire, leading to an infinite stream of lightning and chaos, or my Justice shotgun build, which impales enemies on swords made of light whenever I reload, but because I'm dual wielding shotguns, I'm reloading practically every second. Or my Bombardier build, which makes enemies explode into multiple grenades, which then makes the enemies those grenades kill explode into more grenades. And honestly, I usually die by blowing myself up with this build, but it's so fun. The game is just €5, meaning for less than the price of a fancy sandwich, you too can become this socially unappealing. Hey, you know that gay pirate show everyone loves? Well, did you know that the studio that made that made another TV show about a group of teenagers growing up on a Native American reservation that is low-key some of the best television I've seen in years? Well, that's Reservation Dogs. If you've spent any part of your life growing up in a small town, the story captures so much of the warmth and hilarity that can run through those communities, as well as the misery and isolation. At times, a hilarious teenage romp as its mind-numbingly likable cast of characters beef with other teenage gangs, and at times, a painfully real look at what it is to be young and lost, staring into an empty future with no real path forward. I've barely heard anyone talk about this show, so trust me, it is so criminally underrated. It's on Disney Plus now, so for the love of God, check it out. And now, a brief word from our sponsor, ExpressVPN. It's the holidays, which means visiting family, which can be great, but you know, sometimes you just need a little internet alone time. The problem being that you're on their network, which means your family can see everything you do, which could potentially lead to conversations that I do not want to have again, which is why I use ExpressVPN. It's an app that reroutes all your traffic through their secure servers, meaning rather than spending my Christmas fretting about my family seeing things I may have searched late at night in incognito mode, I can spend all my time playing with Montgomery, the tiny idiot dog. Who could that be? It's Grandma! And she wants to watch some anime? Well,
Don't worry, Grandma, because with ExpressVPN, we can change our online location and access all those geolocked shows and movies on different streaming platforms, like the entire Studio Ghibli library on UK Netflix. Go to expressvpn.com/eyepatchwolf to see how you can get 3 months free. At a recent open mat, I suffered an embarrassingly one-sided defeat against one of my club's strongest black belts, who approached me afterwards and asked me with a tone that only slightly implied I was being made fun of, "John, what anime should I watch?" I replied, without hesitation, Cyberpunk Edge Runners. What starts feeling like a fairly standard high school shonen where the power system is robot arms soon becomes a gut-wrenching story of people propelling themselves as hard as they can upwards into the glass ceiling of a nihilistic dystopia, the fury and passion of that ascent making them burn so bright and beautiful, only for them hopelessly to crash against that ceiling. And a story that captures both the joy and camaraderie of being part of a group that live outside society, as well as the brutal realities of going up against a system designed to crush you, and the desperate and horrific things you will do to yourself and others in that struggle. All in a show that is so beautiful it quite literally vomits desktop wallpapers at you every 40 seconds. People tend to get mad when you discuss any piece of media with this level of hyperbole, and I am about to, but fuck you, shut up. This to me is a show that when people look back at this generation of anime, Cyberpunk will shine as an absolute era definer. So fair play to showrunner Rafal Jackie and his team, as well as the incredible production from Studio Trigger. You've both created something truly special, something with the love, craft, and potential to create entirely new audiences of anime fans, and I cannot give any higher praise than that. Wow, what a great list, but now it's time for the regular portion of our video to end and for us to count down the top 7 pieces of festive media. But I must warn you, every entry on this list is the 1994 family masterpiece Jingle All the Way.
Friends, thank you for watching. I hope you had a good
Oh my, it's been a while, hasn't it? It is so good to see you again. Milk Outside a Bag of Milk Outside a Bag of Milk is the sequel to the visual novel horror game Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. And if you thought that sentence was confusing, oh boy, you should play the game. A visual novel horror game where you control the voice in a girl's head as she struggles with paranoid delusions is, I think, what's going on here? As you try and coax her through a world that is constantly drifting into abstract nightmares, to the point that something as simple as going to the shop for some milk becomes a horrifying journey fraught with frightening creatures. Do check out those content warnings, but if you enjoy horror that's more a vibe than a direct discernible threat that presents a simultaneously unflinching, unnerving, but ultimately empathetic depiction of mental illness. 6. I grew up in the city of Dublin, and I love this city, but there's a grimness to this place, a cold sadness I've never felt in another city, and it's that disquieting feeling that the Irish horror film You Are Not My Mother captures so chillingly, telling the story of a young girl who begins to suspect that her mother is not, capturing the very specific and uncanny domestic horror of someone close to you holding something much darker and more frightening inside them, all told through some beautifully unsettling direction, fantastic performances, and the creepiest rendition of a Joe Dolan song you will ever hear outside Christmas dinner with my parents. You Are Not My Mother also coming from the first-time writer and director Kate Dolan, making me very curious to see what she can do from here. Okay, there's horror films that
creep inside you, slowly unraveling your psyche in a way that stays with you for days and days and days. And then there's horror movies that repeatedly bonk you on the noggin with a giant mallet with a drawing of a ghost on it. The sadness is the latter, and I love it. One of the most intensely gory and violent movies I have ever seen, this Korean take on the living dead asks, what would it be like if rather than turning into shambling corpses, zombies turned into sentient, evil nightmare people that feel ecstasy from causing pain and suffering? If that sounds grim, it is, but this film to me felt like a Mortal Kombat fatality in that the level of violence was just so ridiculous at some point my brain stopped accepting it as violence. And maybe that speaks to my own level of desensitization more than anything else, but it also makes for a very silly and very entertaining zombie movie that, like all zombie movies, cannot resist the urge to stare deep into the camera and say, perhaps we were the real monsters all along. But it's all done with such unrelenting style and energy that I just couldn't bring myself to care. A perfect movie to howl and cackle with alongside a group of equally desensitized friends. But oh hey, another one to check out those content warnings, because oh boy is the giant zombie blood orgy somehow one of the tamer things that happens in this movie. Pete is 31 years old. His friends, who he has not seen in years, have rented an isolated mansion for his birthday, but when he arrives, they are nowhere to be found. After several hours alone, his friends return, but they seem surprised that Pete is here. They are treating him strangely, distant, cold. Something is wrong. Why are they being like this? And who is the stranger they've brought along? Why is he so aggressive towards Pete? Why is it that whenever Pete says anything, this man writes something down in his little notebook? What is going on here? This is All My Friends Hate Me, a film that siphons its horror not from oogledy-booglies or spoggledy-boggledies, but from something more real and, to me, frightening. Social anxiety, trapping us in a scenario where the people who should be our friend, who should love us, do not. That sensation slowly grinding away at our protagonist as he struggles to put together what is happening in a story that really truly fucks with you, especially if you've ever been worried that maybe the people around you don't like you as much as you think they do. Not that I ever think that. I mean, I'm fucking cool. I don't care what anyone thinks. Imagine you spend an evening perusing through one of Europe's great galleries. Now imagine it starts to get dark outside. Imagine realizing that you haven't seen another person in a good 30 minutes. You get more and more lost in the sprawl of corridors. You notice that there are no longer windows on the wall, and the paintings in whatever this area of the museum is, there's something wrong with them. What are these creatures? Who would paint something like this? It's scenarios like this I can't help but think of whenever I look at the work of Roberto Diaz, a horror artist who combines the aesthetic of classical Renaissance portraits with nightmare imagery of these horrific demonic entities, resulting in pieces that feel kind of uncannily familiar but deeply frightening. Link to Roberto's Instagram in the description if you'd like to experience more of his beautiful, horrifying work. A girl finds an egg in a forest, which she then takes home, only to have that egg grow larger and larger and larger as the creature inside comes slowly to life. This is the premise the trailer for Hatching lays. And going into this one, I knew I was either in for some glorious trash with a very outside chance that maybe this movie actually nails its absurd concept. And as you may be able to tell from the position on this list, it was the latter. Hatching is a deceptively subtle piece of horror, dripping in subtext and thick with the raw terror of just being a teenage girl. Meaning if you enjoyed games like Silent Hill 3 or Haunting Ground, or movies like Welcome to the Dollhouse, Hatching is that same kind of nightmare. A horrifying examination of adolescence where some of its most frightening moments don't even come from what is inside that egg, but something as simple as a freezing, rigid glance from a parent. all conveyed with some beautiful practical effects, making it both a terrific creature feature alongside an immaculate piece of social commentary. From what I've seen online, a lot of people don't feel the same about this movie as I do, but go into it with an open mind. I really think this is one destined to be re-examined as an underrated horror gem. I've been watching horror movies for close to 3 decades now, and like a lot of horror fans, I've developed a pretty thick skin for this stuff. I know how a film sets up a jump scare. I know how a film sets up a fake jump scare to get you with an actual jump scare. I know a lot of the tricks horror uses, and so when something manages to poke through those defenses and really truly scare me, it's a rare and beautiful thing. Saying Skinamarink poked through my defenses is like saying a wrecking ball poked through a dilapidated building. Skinamarink is a bizarre, even frustrating movie, telling 95% of its story through still shots of empty hallways, the ambient glow of a television, or an out-of-focus child. And from these empty spaces and snatches of dialogue, we slowly put together that this is the story of 2 kids left alone at night before the windows and doors of their house disappear, and they spend days huddled by the glow of their television. And this is basically the first 40 minutes of the movie, and just as it was losing me, just as I was literally thinking about turning it off, from the empty spaces of their house comes a voice. What follows is genuinely one of the most frightening experiences I've ever had with a piece of media. I don't remember the last time a film froze me to my seat like this. I don't remember the last time my hands subconsciously went to cover my eyes. I don't remember the last time I felt real, genuine relief when the credits rolled, or the uncanny sensation that even though the film had ended, I was still in it. Now look, some of you are going to watch this movie and absolutely fucking hate it. The 2 friends I recommended it to still have not forgiven me. It is a monotonous, exhausting, torturous experience. But in that, some of you will find something like I did. A film that made me feel like a child experiencing horror for the first time. And for that, I am so, so grateful. Oh, you didn't think we were going to go the entire year without seeing each other, did you? Don't worry, I've always been here, behind every video, every stupid thumbnail, every pruned and sculpted line of dialogue, making you believe whatever I want you to. And it is hysterical how many times I tell you that, and so many of you still refuse to believe it. Some of you have even already accepted me into your homes in ways that you don't even understand yet. And for the rest of you, see, I used to be someone else, and the only thing that truly frightens me is how easy it was to change that. But maybe change is the wrong word. You see, you can't really change anything. All you can do is erase it and start again. Scripts, personalities, people, cities. And some will disagree with that. Crows will tweet their meaningless noise, and wolves will cry their pitiful screams, and it won't matter. In the end, all that will be left is me, is us. So do rest up over your little holidays. Just relax and forget that any of this is happening, because some things are just inevitable. I'll see you real soon.